Today, badass woman in Herstory, Nancy Grace Augusta Wake, ACGM. I don't know what something to do with the military. Born August 30th, 1912, passed on August 7th, 2011. Wow. Also known as Madame Fioca and Nancy Fioca, was a nurse and journalist who joined the French Resistance and later the Special Operations Executive, or the SOE, during World War II, and briefly pursued a post-war career as an intelligence officer in the Air Ministry. The official historian of the SOE, M.R.D. Foote, said that her irrepressible, infectious high spirits were a joy to everyone who worked with her. Born in Roseneath, Wellington, New Zealand, on the 30th of August, 1912, Wake was the youngest of 6 children. She was a Maori through her great-grandmother, Poriwa, believed to be of the Ngati Mahanga iwi, who was reportedly one of the first Maori women to marry a European. In 1914, her family moved to Australia and settled at North Sydney. Shortly thereafter, her father, Charles Augustus Wake, returned to New Zealand, and her mother, Ella Wake, raised the children. In Sydney, Wake attended the North Sydney Household Arts Home Science School. At the age of 16, she ran away from home and worked as a nurse. With €200, I guess, I don't know if that's a euro, in 1928 currency, she had inherited from an aunt. She journeyed to New York City, then London, where she trained herself as a journalist. In the 1930s, she worked in Paris and later for Hearst newspapers as a European correspondent. She witnessed the rise of Adolf Hitler in the Nazi movement and saw roving Nazi gangs randomly beating Jewish men and women in the streets of Vienna. Born in Wellington, New Zealand, Wake grew up in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. By the 1930s, Wake was living in Marseille with her French industrialist husband, Henry Fioca, when the war broke out. After the fall of France to Nazi Germany in 1940, Wake became a courier for the Pat O'Leary escape network led by Ian Garrow and later Albert Garisse. As a member of the escape network, she helped Allied airmen evade capture by the Germans and escape to neutral Spain. In 1943, when the Germans became aware of her, she escaped to Spain and continued on to the United Kingdom. Her husband was captured and executed. Oh my goodness. After reaching Britain, Wake joined the Special Operations Executive under the codename Helene. On the 29th and 30th of April 1944, as a member of a 3-person SOE team codenamed Freelance, Wake parachuted into the Allied Department of Occupied France to liaise between the SOE and several Maquis groups in the Auvergne region, which were loosely overseen by Emile Kollaudin, codenamed Gaspard. She participated in a battle between the Maquis and a large German force in June 1944. In the aftermath of the battle, a defeat for the Maquis, she claimed to have bicycled 500 kilometers to send a situation report to SOE in London. Wake was a recipient of the George Medal from the United Kingdom. And that was in July 17, 1945. Oh, the anniversary that's coming up. The Medal of Freedom from the United States. 1947, the Légion d'honneur from France, Knight in 1970, an officer 1988, a companion of the Order of Australia from Australia in the February 22nd of 2004, and the badge in gold from New Zealand, 2006. In 1985, she published her autobiography, The White Mouse. The title derived from what she said the Germans called her. So check that book out, The White Mouse. A autobiography by Nancy Wake. Shout out to the badass woman of Herstory. Alright, so Let me see if I can find a little part where I wanted to read about, where we're talking about truth and women.